Hey everyone, how's it going? So what am I working on now? Well, I got this '01 Acura TL. It was at another shop, and the customer's complaint is it's not shifting into second gear. It's a 3.2 V6. It's setting a code P1750, which is the hydraulic circuit in the tranny. Okay? If you follow the code, what the flow chart tells you is basically go down to the solenoid, check the resistance of the solenoid. Is the resistance this, or is it resistance that? Yes, no, whatever. Replace the solenoids. I've seen that plenty of times. Let me show you what I got going on here. And then also you're going to see a lot of wiring and stuff hanging out here that I have hooked up. So this is the engine bay here, obviously. And if you look down here, see those solenoids? Those are the solenoids. They have a tendency to go bad. Yes, I've changed quite a few of those over the years. Now, if you look, I have a couple of things set up here. That's the connector right there for it. There's two connectors. There's that one and there's the brownish colored one over there. Okay, so I got that one there. And if you look down on the solenoids themselves, you'll actually see that I have connectors on there. I was able to scavenge some connectors from a parts Honda we have outside. And I ran wiring to it. Now here's where everything gets interesting. They tell you to replace those solenoids. If that doesn't fix it, replace the transmission. That is what it tells you to do. Well, guess what? This is a replacement transmission, and it's the exact same problem. And it's the exact same code. I've tried clearing it, everything else. I'm assuming, judging by what I see has been done, the battery's definitely been out of this. So the PCM should have cleared. What do you do in a situation like that? Where the flow chart tells you one thing, you do it, and that's it. It doesn't fix it. But you still got a problem. Then what? Well, now it's time to start thinking outside the box. So what I did do was I have jumper wires hooked up to the one solenoid. And let me just show you this real quick. And let me figure out my wiring here because I got all this jumble of stuff here. Here's the positive, there's the negative. Here's the negative, here's the positive. Okay. So, listen. I'm adding positive to it. There's a bunch of background noise, sorry about that. But you can hear that solenoid clicking. Alright, so I know the solenoid works, because is it possible to get a bad solenoid? Absolutely. Alright. So the next thing I did was the scanner on the car, and when I have the scanner hooked up to this car, no matter if it's the Snap-on or the new K10 from King Bowling, either one, if I have it hooked up, I can't command those solenoids. There's no provision for it. That means the vehicle doesn't have the provision for it. Because if the vehicle had the provisions for it, it would give me that in the scanner. I have, in the scanner, I have the provisions to do the other shift solenoids and stuff, but not those pressure solenoids, those clutch pressure solenoids, which are technically shift solenoids. Okay. So what I wound up doing was, I went in there, and I did this. Let me show you. This vehicle is commanding second gear right now. I have the shifter in second, and it does the same thing whether it's running or not. That's the voltage going to the solenoid, 10.79. That's the voltage in the vehicle right now, 12.8, 12.7. So we're missing about 2 volts going right into the connector there. Guess what? That's not enough to actuate the solenoid. However, like I said, you can hear the solenoid click. I'm going to do it again. Okay, if I have somebody sitting in this, I start it up, put it in first gear, let the wheel spin up in first, shift it to second, it stays in first gear, it never shifts second gear. But if I hit that, it'll shift second gear while that solenoid is actuated. So what's going on? the computer's either not actuating it or I have a wiring problem. So now my next step is I have to open up the harness over at the PCM, disconnect it, and ohm out the wiring just to make sure that everything's good. Sorry about the background noise. But the problem is, the flow chart doesn't tell you any of that. You basically got to think outside the box. Without the flow chart telling you that, what do you do? What am I going to do, put another transmission in it and have the same exact problem? It's just amazing that the flow chart doesn't give you anything else to go on. But the flow chart tells you, or the code tells you, it's a hydraulic problem internal to the transmission or a control problem. But it doesn't tell you what to do about the control. The control is the electrical portion, but it doesn't tell you what to do with that. So now I got to get to the PCM, because the PCM controls the tranny on this also. I got to get to the PCM and I got to start ohming out wiring to find out, maybe the computer's dead, maybe the driver that actuates the solenoid is not doing anything. I don't know. Or it could be, a broken wire and, not making enough contact. I can actually, if I had the car running, I could get the voltage up a little bit, but it's never enough to even light a test light. Not lighting a test light, you know what? It's never going to actuate a solenoid. So, sometimes you got to think outside the box. All right, let me see if I can't get to the PCM and go from there. All right, so I wound up ordering a computer for that car. Actually, I had to leave. I got a phone call, and I have a little bit of an emergency that I got to go take care of. It's nothing dramatic, but I have to leave. So I needed to get through the testing real quick and get out of there without filming it. What I did was I disconnected the PCM connector. I jumped the two wires going to that one particular solenoid. The one that was the one that if I jumped, all of a sudden it would shift. Now that I was getting anywhere from, I was getting about 2 volts less than what it should be getting. Basically not enough to trigger the solenoid itself. So what I did is I disconnected the PCM connector. I left my meter hooked up on the other end. I switched it to ohms. I jumped the connector. As soon as I jumped the connector, the ohms went to less than 0.2 of an ohm of resistance, which tells me the wiring is good. Then what I did was I took my meter and I checked for power and ground on each wire. Basically, I left the jumper in there and I went on one single wire, because now it's a complete loop. And I checked for power and I checked for ground, because if I had power or ground, then it would tell me, hey, the wire's rubbed through somewhere and it's grounding out, or it's rubbed through to power or something along those lines. And I had none of that. Everything was clear, it was open. So that tells me the wiring harness itself is perfect. There's nothing to worry about there. So last step is order a PCM. Now the funny thing is, like I said, diagnostics do not point you in that direction at all. So it's like, what do you do? When you have diagnostics that don't give you what you need, you kind of have to think outside the box. So I was just trying to show you that there with that particular vehicle. All right, so I don't know if that PCM shows up today, then that means one of the other guys is going to put it in. If it shows up tomorrow, then I'll be putting it in. But I figured just in case, I may as well make this video. All right, guys, so that's it. I'm ending the video there. All right, have a great day. Hopefully you got something out of that. Have a great day. Keep wrenching.